Hello and welcome back to the Marketing Brief. I am your host, Brian Aquan, and this is the podcast where we briefly touch on topics across the marketing landscape. As always, we're joined by an industry expert, and we're very excited to be joined by Errol Firestone today. Errol, welcome in.
Brian, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
That's great. We're happy to have you. Would you like to introduce yourself, kind of talk about what you're working on? You got a new gig going.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a 15 plus year industry of the media machine.
Yeah.
I have worked across multiple big agencies, a couple of more mid-sized agencies, and had a lot of different experiences throughout the course of the evolution of our industry. Over the last 15 plus years. I recently joined WPP Media, working in the pharma space, and very excited about the new role. But I did go through a pretty lengthy and unexpected job search recently. So, got a good feel for the market and the sentiment and, what our industry kind of feels like right now, almost from the outside, so to speak.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the new
Thank you.
role. We're excited for you. Yeah, I would love to talk about your journey because I've been out there as a consultant. I'm always looking for business. So in a sense, I'm always out there trying to not try to feast, not famine. How long were you unemployed?
It was 9 months, actually almost to the day.
Okay. And I've got similar background where I work at agencies and I've spent time unemployed, and this time kind of feels different. What do you think is or what to you feels different right now about the market and trying to find a job?
Yeah. In my past experiences, being out searching for a job, in some cases with a job and searching, and in other
Mhm.
cases, being out there with nothing, it feels like there is a force field of some kind surrounding the industry that is much less penetrable than it used to be. There's a just the sheer volume and the layoffs hitting the news and the real people that you and I all know, really good people that are finding themselves quickly and unexpectedly out of work. And there's a glut of talent, and the economy is in a place where it is unsure. And so companies aren't ready to take bigger risks in expansion. There's a lot of shifting of accounts from one agency and holdco to the other, as there always is. But it just doesn't feel like anyone's willing to invest in people right now in the way that they once were.
Yes, completely agree with you. From my standpoint, yeah, economically driven, right? Companies were hit with tariffs middle of last year, I guess starting in April, almost a year ago now, right? Those tariffs were introduced. Companies are like, okay, we don't know how to do business now because costs have gotten higher. We're uncertain in how to invest in ourselves. And no matter how we prove it out, marketing and advertising is a place that the businesses usually cut first. So they're usually hit kind of first, and they're like, we can scale back on that marketing. Even though we know year over year, if you do invest at a time when everybody's cutting back, you are going to increase your brand share, you're going to increase your awareness, and it's proven to be a way to build your brand. But I agree with you. So we've got economic factors. I think the other thing we're seeing is people are staying in the workforce longer.
Yeah.
Right. So people aren't aging out and leaving their jobs. They have a nice savings. They're ready for retirement. Like they're staying in their positions, which is squeezing the overall workforce as well.
No question.
Yeah. And then I think thirdly, we've got AI, kind of just putting itself in the conversation, right? I think companies are trying to navigate, can I do more with less? Right? Can I not invest in someone who's a bigger number and someone who's a smaller number, and then with technology get them up to that level? I don't think that works, but I do see companies that are trying it, right, and thinking, oh, maybe this is a place that we can save on, and invest in the technology at the same time, keep our payroll down. Is that something that you're seeing in the market as well?
Yeah. To varying degrees, depending on the people in charge and their commitment to a technology or a change in their process and a rethinking of their business. And I think that's the key thing that has challenged companies up to this point is they've tried to kind of slot AI in to their existing infrastructure. And it does have applications, right? Low value, repeatable work that can be automated and just free up some time on a week to week, day to day basis. What I don't think organizations are doing is taking a zero sum approach, or just, how would we construct our operations, our company, if we had AI at the core and native. And while it's not realistic for any company of a certain size to kind of, hit the reset button and rebuild, I do think it's a valuable exercise to understand where AI can fit best in your organization. And that helps you kind of get to, well, what's practical and what can we execute now and test and what can we execute later. But it's really challenging because I don't, in my experience, I haven't seen it kind of figured out yet. And it's going to take a lot more time and a lot more, test and learn iteration until it really takes hold in the way that I think the bottom lines of some companies hope it will.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to take buy-in too, right? And I think something we've talked about on this podcast is that AI has a brand problem, right? Like people aren't like giving themselves up over to it, like, hey, let me figure this out. I spent a lot of time with it. We've talked on this podcast where it's somewhere in between a tool, like the calculator of our times right now, to full backbone of an organization, right? It's infrastructure that you can build around. Certainly you can build a marketing system around it. So yeah, I agree. A lot more to be figured out. Well,
And
we talked
I do
about,
want to add
oh,
one
go
thing.
ahead.
I am an AI
Yeah,
optimist. I think there's a
good.
ton of potential, and am deeply invested in keeping up with the changes and evolution across all the different LLMs and new companies that are spawning every day that are super specialized. And so I'm optimistic about the impact on the world, and I do think that there is a world where AI helps us to expand the business and what we can achieve, right? And
Hmm.
not contract it to replace, but really be additive. I'm hopeful that that will happen sooner than later because right now it feels like it's impacting a lot of real human people in significant ways.
Yeah. And that's why I do like the calculator analogy because it does take a good operator, right? A calculator on its own is not doing anything. But if you have the right inputs, if you have the right programming, if you're prompting in the right fashion, certainly a lot of positive things can come out of
Totally.
it and efficiency can be seen. So we kind of talked about a little bit about like what's going on in the job market right now. I'd love to get from you kind of like how do you get through that, right? I have my own thoughts on this because it's a roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster when you're dealing with, oh my God, I don't know where my check's coming from, to I have to stay confident as I'm going into these conversations and having conversations. Is there something that kind of helped you kind of as you went along
When
figure out or to keep you sane?
I look back on on the period of time, and I think about it in kind of phases, right?
Mm-hmm.
that first that first really week is you're just it's a gut punch.
You're numb.
It's
Yeah.
usually unexpected. Most people's reaction is, well, I just need to decompress. I need a few days, right? I need to process the change in life that's just so sudden and complete. And so many of us identify with who we are, and work is a big part of that. So, I think that was important to be able to kind of step away. And then, reality sets in. It's like the reality bites phase, and you got to face it. And I think you come out of that. I came out of that at least with this enthusiasm and energy, right? I'm all go get them, and let's pound the pavement. And for some people, that phase doesn't last very long, and they're fortunate enough to kind of find themselves in another role quickly. I think right now you're finding a lot more people are taking a lot more time than they anticipated to land that next role. And it's when you don't know where the end is, when
Yeah.
it feels like the horizon of your life and the industry is very hazy, then it's a challenge on a day-to-day basis. The other thing that really impacted me was, so I have a wife, I have a son. My wife works, my son is in school, and there's a disruption to the routine that you feel, right? But everyone else's life goes on. And
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of underscores, when everyone leaves for the day and you're sitting there facing your computer screen, it's where do we go from here? And so it takes, I think, a lot of mental toughness, really,
Mm-hmm.
just to be able to keep focused and use your time wisely.
Yeah, I agree. I think that first step, like you said, you get the gut punch, you get through that. I immediately went to that. I'm gonna apply to 1,000 jobs, right? Like just go swing the whole
I may have
other
applied to
way.
1,000 jobs. Yeah, you get it.
and we talked a little bit about when we before we started recording, like you're not getting feedback, right? Like I think it used to be like, well, at least I'd get some meetings, I'd start some interviews, I'd start to get some feedback from people, but it seems like now it's really hard to get person to person feedback. You're usually getting like a form rejection letter of you just, we had other candidates
If you're
that were
lucky.
qualified. Yeah, even sometimes nothing. You get
There's a
absolutely
lot of
nothing.
professional ghosting happening, no question. And that kind of force field
Mhm.
image feels really real. And when there are so many people fighting for so few open roles, then just the volume of applications you see when you go to like a LinkedIn and a job was posted 2 hours ago and there's over 100 applicants. You're like, did I already miss it? I don't know. I fired off so many resumes, digitally, mostly through LinkedIn, sometimes through their applicant tracking system, Greenhouse, and all the systems that they use to manage those candidates. And a lot of times you just aren't going to hear back. And I would say maybe 15% of the jobs I applied for, I received some kind of rejection
Yeah,
communication.
it's really low.
It's low.
I think the hard thing when that happens too is that you start to look inward and you're like, oh, what do I need to change about myself? And you
Yes.
start kind of changing yourself for every role that you are applying to. And I've had these conversations with people, and certainly be reflective, live a self-reflective life, and understand, your awareness in the situation. But I think one of the things you have to do is just persevere. And you did mention persevere, but it's like you can't react to non-reactions all the time. So it's like kind of keep hitting the pavement, keep doing what you're doing. And I think the other thing we've seen is that timing is so important here, right? There are hiring cycles. Have you seen that in your recent journey as well?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, we talked about the economy a little bit and just the macro kind of lower level we're living at right now. But it's hiring's always been seasonal, and so when I was let go, it was July, and I looked ahead of me and I said, well, it's July. I mean, people are basically out of the office for another 6 weeks, so I might as well get comfy and get prepared. And
Mm-hmm.
fall hit, and you expect things to pick up, and they did. That period lasts up until about Thanksgiving, and then I'm sure you're aware, as many people in your audience are, there was a massive merger that finally went through after a long time with a significant volume of layoffs. And so the market, that's another piece that is unique to right now, which is every so often there's a kind of a restocking of the unemployed
Mm, yeah,
group. So
inventory. Yeah.
yeah, and when you see that and you're going through it day to day and you're not getting the positive feedback, trying to adjust and change things like you mentioned, like, oh, well, that's a whole other group of people that on the one side I deeply feel for because they're in the same situation I am and they're going through that tough moment right now. And on the other hand, I'm like, that's a lot more candidates out in the market, that everyone's going to be competing for the same roles.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Well, looking at the seasonality of things, understanding the market, approaching this as a marketer, I think was the right way that you did it. Kind of do that in everything I do because that's what I do. So I've written some content and people can check it out on LinkedIn about the hidden job market and how to kind of persevere through this, how you should kind of approach it. But I really appreciate you sharing your time with us. I always like to ask my guests what's something they're excited about coming up. I know you just started a new job, so this could be in your professional capacity or your personal capacity, but is there something that you're excited about right now?
Professionally, I would say I'm excited about AI. Despite its collateral damage and unintended consequences, I'm excited about it. And personally, summer. I'm very excited for summer. It's been a long winter in New York.
Yeah, a lot of snow in New York. That's great. You got any summer plans for the family?
Atypically, usually we do, but not big ones because I was in such an unknown space that we didn't make
Yeah,
our usual summer plans. But it is our anniversary in at the end of June, so we'll do something for that, and we'll make the best of it. I'll take nice weather, good health. That's all we need.
absolutely. Great. Well, Errol, I feel like people have, or I'm hoping that people have really resonated with your story and with us talking about, how to navigate this job market. So thank you for being open and for sharing with it, for sharing your story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will add one thing because on a positive note, it does give you the opportunity to when you've been in the industry for a while, like I have, even if you haven't, to connect or reconnect with folks that you haven't in a long time. And there were a lot of people, and they know who they are, just brought a lot of kindness my way. And that doesn't mean that they referred me at their company for a job, and it doesn't mean, that they even looked at my resume and gave me feedback. They may have just taken the time to have a conversation and hear me out. A couple of folks who offered to take me to lunch, and those little kindnesses are meaningful, and they do help to keep you going. So, to the folks out there who are going through it now, either recently or have been in a stretch, keep it day to day, keep pushing along. You're going to have days where it feels hard, and
Mhm.
experience those days, feel those days, and then come back stronger.
I agree with you. Those just coffee meetings are so big. I mean, just having something on your calendar gives you some worth, right? So, yeah, people who can certainly keep reaching out. Offer those coffee meetings, offer those lunches because they go a long way. They certainly go a long way. It's been great having you for a conversation, Errol.
Thank you for having me.
Can people reach out to you on LinkedIn if
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
awesome? Yeah, we'll put that in when we post the content.
Well, welcome.
Thank you for joining me, everybody. This has been a brief conversation on the Marketing Brief podcast. I'm your host, Brian Aquan, and stay curious.